I didn't have many hard times with Eddie. There was just one time that all of a sudden he decided he wasn't going to trust me anymore. And that happens. That's normal. It's part of the medicines, all of the. But most of the time he was against the in-laws, and it was me he wanted. So I didn't have that many hard times. I mean, yes, did he have accidents that I had to clean up? Yes. But I was lucky. There was only that one time that he didn't trust me, and I think the whole thing lasted maybe an hour. And then next thing you knew, because he wanted everybody else here, he wanted your aunts and uncles to be here. It was like as soon as they got here, then he came to me and went, "When are they going to go home? Why are they all here?" He wouldn't eat unless I had prepared it. I had made these special little drinks for him because he wasn't eating anymore and he had to have his protein. So I would make him these special little Ensure drinks that had extra fiber in it and ice cream in it, and so that he would eat.
Yeah, we turned our house upside down a bit, right? We dedicated the whole living room became his bedroom, so that he had a big screen TV there. I slept in the next room to be able to keep an eye on him. So, you know, he took over our house in a sense. We had a curtain that we put, between that living room or family room and the kitchen area, so that when things were going on the other side, and he needed some privacy, you pull the curtain. Sometimes he'd walk into parties in his underwear or whatever. But no, it was, again, disruptive, but, he enriched our lives, and I think that, we feel, good about how we were able to comfort his last days, and he appreciated it, and he knew it. I mean, he knew he was dying, but he also was so appreciative of what Mom did for him, what we all did for him, and to have your family around you constantly, probably was the best gift that we could give him.
There was one day he was supposed to be walking with a cane, but he didn't like it. So he and I were walking through the house, arm in arm, and we walked into your father's study where he was sitting there in his chair, and your father started reprimanding him because he didn't have his cane. And I was saying, "But he's got me. He's using me as a cane." And your father went and got his cane and gave it to your grandfather and said, "You're to use your cane," and he's really giving him. And your grandfather raised the cane up in the air and he says, "I'll give you some cane." And that was funny. We all thought that was very funny.
There were rough times towards the end when the cancer spreads to the point where it involves dementia, and so he would kind of go in and out of kind of recognition of us. He always was on the move. That's another aspect of the late stage illness, that he would always want to be walking around, and he was feeble and could easily fall. So it was a challenge to try to keep him safe while he wanted to do his roaming. So we got a wheelchair and tried to take him for little spins in it throughout the house, look out the window. But it never seemed to be enough. He always just wanted to get out of this chair and walk. And so we'd have to kind of battle him sometimes with that. It was kind of funny, but he was a sweet man, and he always kept his good spirits, except for, occasion or two where he got a little angry with me.
So then there was another time where I think it was tying his shoes, and your father was sitting on the floor in front of him and tying his shoes, but he was sitting pretzels, like type of pretzel style, but certain parts were exposed. And
he looked at me with kind of a quizzical look, and he says, "How would you like it if I kicked you in the balls?" And I just died laughing. And he didn't understand why I was laughing. He actually wanted an answer.
Little funny things like that. He was very funny. He would call you. He'd be in the family room, you'd be in the sunroom, and he'd call you on the phone, on his cell phone, just because he could. And he thought it was fun. But, for the most part, it was a joy having him here.
Otherwise, he didn't have a mean bone in his body. He's a wonderful guy, a great father, good husband.
Well, we would get up, and I would make him one of his special drinks, and then we usually sit and watch the birds. And we watch the birds. And then he'd watch his TV shows. He loved his TV shows. He had his TiVo. He had everything TiVo'd. And he would lay in his hospital bed and watch his TiVo. And then he would get up again, and he'd come, and we'd sit together and watch the birds again. And then he'd go back. And I was always trying to get him to eat little things, anything he could. At one point, he always wanted angel hair. Angel hair spaghetti, angel hair spaghetti. So I'd make him the angel hair spaghetti. And then one day, all of a sudden, I said to him, Eddie, I got angel hair. You're going to be so excited. He looked at me, he goes, I hate angel hair. So now we had to go to something else, which was pastina. I made a lot of pastina for him, or the little orzos. But it was things like that would keep changing with him, what he would like, what he wouldn't like. But it was, it sounds like not a lot of work, but it was a lot of work because I constantly had to have my eye on him, or somebody had to be here with him. He couldn't really be left alone because if he fell, and he was very unsteady on his feet, but if he fell, he was in big danger of really breaking bones because he was, his bones were so brittle by now with all the chemo and all the radiation. Mm-hmm. And you could tell he was getting very lonely too. Like he couldn't wait till you guys got home from school to see you all. I would get out when your father would come home from work. I used to almost beg my two brother-in-laws to please, because they both worked within 5 minutes of our house, to please come and bring him lunch and sit in here and eat lunch with them just so I can run to the grocery store. And I couldn't get them to, they just didn't do it. Every now and then they would. And it got to the point that when they did start coming, he no longer trusted them, and I wasn't allowed to leave for the grocery store. But again, I wasn't gone for long. I would, unless your father was going to be right back or whatever. Because there were a lot of pills he had to take at all different hours. So somebody always had to be here to administer all his medicine and all of his stuff. It was a lot of responsibility. Well, hospice came in from the very start. There would be a girl that would come, but again, he wouldn't let me leave. A girl would come in a couple of days a week, and it was really basically to give me a break. But he wasn't going for that. So she just sat here for a few hours. Once a week, a nurse would come in, but that was just to check his vitals and make sure his meds were okay, that he had enough medicine, that, It wasn't until the very, very end that we had 24-hour nurses.
I think that they were very helpful, and I would recommend it to anybody who can do that, as opposed to, I guess, going to an out-of-the-house hospice. They came in, regularly as needed, and towards the end, we actually had some 24-hour nursing care so that we could actually get some sleep, because again, he was roaming all through the night. We were all losing sleep trying to watch after him. We took shifts. But they certainly not only took care of him, but they also helped prepare us mentally for the inevitable and guided us through that whole process, letting us know what things were likely to happen, when, how we should, deal with it, how to administer his meds when they weren't there. They were wonderful, invaluable.